Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are going to be talking about comorbidity, so the conditions that can run alongside ADHD. So ADHD, you know, is a behaviour disorder, and alongside ADHD there can be some other disorders, some conditions that are more likely to appear in someone who has ADHD. So we're going to be talking about that, and I'm really excited to just jump straight into it. I've had to learn this and I think it's really cool and interesting, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. But first, if you could smash me a big thumbs up down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'll forever be grateful, and let's get on to the video. So for the sake of this video, we're just talking about ADHD because otherwise this can spiral and we'll be here forever. So basically, comorbidity is between 60 to 80% of people with ADHD are more than likely to have coexisting disorders, conditions running alongside their ADHD, and not a lot of people know that, and that is why I want to raise awareness to this fact. It's super interesting, and I really think the more people become aware of it, the more people are going to be able to get the help that they deserve and that they need. For this one, we're going to be talking now about the coexisting conditions that are usually seen alongside ADHD, and we're going to talk about kids with ADHD, kids without ADHD, and what the statistics are in the UK. I'm going to throw these facts at you. Learning disabilities, children with ADHD are 45%, children without ADHD are 5% likely to have a learning disability. Anxiety, 18% with ADHD, 2% without ADHD. Again, a huge difference. Conduct disorder, 27% with, 2% without. Depression, 15% with ADHD, 1% without ADHD. Speech problems, 12% with ADHD, 3% without ADHD. This is crazy, and if you want to know more about this and see these statistics for yourself, if you go onto Google and type in CHADD, you'll come up, click that, and it's all about ADHD, and the link will be down below, or literally just Google CHADD, CHADD, and you'll find so much more about ADHD on there, and you may even learn some new things yourself. So if you didn't know, there are 3 types of ADHD. There's the inattentive type, there's a hyperactivity and impulsive type, and there is the combined type. I myself am the combined type. That just means I've got a mixture of all of the hyperactivity, inattentiveness, impulsiveness traits. I have it all basically, and yeah, I'm the combined type. So there are 3 types of ADHD. So let me know in the comments which one you are. And you know, not a lot of people know what type they are, and it's really difficult to get the correct help if you don't know what type of ADHD you are, because what helps me won't help a person that is just the inattentive type of ADHD, because I'm also hyperactive, whereas the inattentive type of ADHD, they don't always have the hyperactivity side. So it's really difficult to kind of know what will help, what won't help if you don't know your type of ADHD. So you should definitely find that out if you don't know already. So this part, now we're going to be talking about ADHD and the inattentive type of ADHD. This will let you know how likely you are to have the disorder, other coexisting disorders. This will just let you know how likely you are to have this alongside your ADHD inattentive type. So if you have the ADHD, the inattentive type, this is your statistics on how likely you are to have coexisting disorders. So ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, you are 21% likely to have that alongside your ADHD. Minor depression, 21%. Generalized anxiety disorder, 19%. So you're more likely to have ODD or depression alongside your ADHD inattentive. So now we are talking about ADHD, hyperactivity and impulsive type. So here are your statistics about how likely you are to have other conditions. So 42% likely to have oppositional defiance disorder, ODD. You are 21% likely to be depressed. You are 19% more likely to have generalized anxiety disorder. Again, that's really interesting to know. So this is my type of ADHD, the combined type. So I am 50.7% more likely to have ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. I am 21.7% likely to have depression. I am 12.4% likely to have anxiety disorder. So obviously there's a difference between all 3 of those. The inattentive type you're more than likely to have ODD and depression than you are generalized anxiety. ADHD, hyperactive and impulsive type, you are way more likely to have ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, than you are to have anxiety. So with my combined type, I am way more likely to have ODD than I am generalized anxiety disorder. So I am 50% likely to have ODD, whereas I'm only 12.4% likely to have anxiety disorder. So I have both of those. I actually have ODD and I actually have generalized anxiety disorder. So you can just see how common it is to have coexisting conditions alongside your ADHD. So forgetting that there are 3 subtypes of ADHD, I'm going to tell you what the percentage overall is and what you're more likely to have overall when you have ADHD. So oppositional defiance disorder come up most common, appearing at 41% overall. So depression was second common, with a common rate at 22%. So generalized anxiety only came up at 15%. I don't personally believe that. I think it's way more common. 31% to 45% of people with ADHD also have a learning disability. The thing is, people don't realise how life impacting ADHD is, and I hope these statistics can show people just how crazy, you know, life with ADHD is, and just how likely it is that we also have other conditions impacting our life. So I am so excited just to carry on raising awareness of how likely it is that ADHD is also occurring at the same time as other coexisting conditions. So let's just keep going. Let's keep raising awareness of the fact that ADHD is not an excuse. It is an explanation, and actually it can open up pathways to get more help, because if you have ADHD, you're more than likely to have other conditions, learning conditions, more behaviour conditions, and once you have that physical ADHD diagnosis, I hope that opens the pathway for you to get more help. So what I want to do now is talk to you about the 3 main subtypes of ADHD. I want to talk more in depth about them. So there are 3 main subtypes of ADHD. ADHD hyperactive impulsive type, ADHD combined type, ADHD inattentive type. So then let me know down below in the comments what type you are. If you don't know, have a guess. Like, what do you think you are? What do you think you're more likely to be? So ADHD hyperactivity type, let's get on to some of the traits of that subtype of ADHD. Having difficulty controlling themselves, fidget and wiggles, having difficulty waiting in line, waiting their turn, talks a lot, interrupts and blurts out. So you can see a lot of hyperactivity behaviour in obviously that subtype of ADHD. So now let's go to ADHD inattentive type. These are some of the common, most kind of known traits. Easily distracted, disorganised, loses things a lot, forgetful, and has trouble following directions. So as you can see, that subtype of ADHD isn't predominantly hyperactivity. They don't really have a lot of hyperactivity traits. So that type of ADHD is more likely to go misdiagnosed. So it's really interesting to know that fact. So if you're a teacher, an educator, a parent, remember, not all ADHD is hyperactivity behaviour and traits. So now we are on to my type of ADHD. I am ADHD combined type, which at the beginning I was like, what the bloody hell does that mean? Like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean mine's any worse than hyperactivity and impulsive or the inattentive type. It just means my type of ADHD is a mix-up of all of it. So here are some of the main traits of the combined type of ADHD. Easily distracted, disorganised, loses things, forgetful, having trouble following directions, having difficulty controlling himself, fidget and wiggles, has difficulty waiting, talks a lot, interrupts, very bouncy. So basically just the same list of these 2 put together, mashed together, and there we go, combined type of ADHD. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's my type of ADHD. I want to know if you are this type, or this type. Let me know down in the comments. So now we're going to talk about the neurological disorders that are coexisting with ADHD, and I'm just super pumped to tell you this because I found this out, and that is why I had an assessment for autism, and I am now awaiting to be officially diagnosed with autism. And if I didn't know this, I wouldn't have a clue that I was more likely to have autism because I have ADHD. Let's get on to this because this part is interesting. So 2 out of 3 people with ADHD also have Tourette's. And just let you know some of the traits of Tourette's, motor tics and vocal tics. But what I am going to do is I'm actually going to do a video on each of these comorbidities. I'm going to talk more in depth about each and every one of these because I think it's really interesting to raise awareness of the traits and, you know, what the implications can be and how it can impact your life. And I'm hoping to do some collaborations with people that have Tourette's, that have all of these other neurological disorders, and I want to know how, you know, how life impacting it is on their life. I want to know more about neurological disorders. 1 out of 3 people with ADHD also have autism as a coexisting disorder condition. Common traits of autism are issues with social communication and interactivity skills, repetitive behaviour, sensory sensitivities. So this kind of comorbidity has a huge kind of range, and it isn't just a diagnosis. This can be stuttering, you know, non-verbal. There are so many, so it's variety of different, but it goes down as speech problems. So remember, it's not about, oh, you can't speak or you have trouble doing this. It's a whole variety of different speech problems. So 1 out of 10 people with ADHD will also have a speech problem. So this is something I generally have, and it's not a, you know, it's definitely self-diagnosed. I don't have an official diagnosis. I can't afford to go private again, but it's 100% me. Looking back at all my school reports and my behaviour, it just shouts Molly to me. It just shouts out me as a person. So ODD. ODD is oppositional defiance disorder. Yeah, that's me. 1 out of 4 people with ADHD will also have ODD. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the traits of ODD. Quick to lose temper, argue with authority and adults, deliberately trying to annoy people, anger and vindictive behaviour. 1 out of 4. It's 1 out of 4. That's crazy high. So the next one is conduct disorder. 1 out of 4 again, and that is lying, truancy, stealing, fighting, biting. So again, that's very high, and these neurological disorders they're more likely to go alongside and coexist alongside your ADHD. So it's not just neurological disorders that are more likely to coexist with your ADHD. There are just other conditions, disorders that are more likely to run alongside your ADHD. So here they are. Anxiety. 1 out of 5 people with ADHD are more than likely to also have anxiety disorder. So the traits of that are worrying excessively, feeling on edge, stressed out, overly tired, tense, and quick to bite. So basically that means she's just quite like snappy. So yeah, 1 out of 5, again, that's super high. So 1 out of 2 people with ADHD, so that is basically like 100% near enough. 1 out of 2 people will have sleep issues, sleep problems. So that again, I do. I'm pretty much like a hamster. I'm nocturnal. I for some reason wake up at night and be like, whoa, let's get going, let's do this, let's do that, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so tired, because in the day I'm like, I don't want to do anything, like basically a sloth in the day, and then at night, like, whoa, I'm a hamster. Let me just tell you some common traits about sleeping issues. So the first one, trouble falling asleep. 2, trouble staying asleep. 3, sleepy during the day. Ah, me. Us ADHDers are like tired people. Like, it's exhausting having ADHD. I told ya, it's exhausting. So 1 out of 10 people with ADHD will also have an issue with substance abuse. So substance abuse, here are some of the main kind of traits of that, and that are behaviour changes, restlessness, loss of coordination, hallucinations, pupil dilations, heart palpitation, sleep issues, and change of appetite. So substance abuse is drugs, alcohol, and yeah, once you get hooked, it's really hard to get yourself unhooked. And with ADHD, we have a really addicting personality, so we can become really fixated and obsessed on one thing, like drugs and alcohol, and it's very kind of common that we can. And I just think it's really important that people know the statistics behind that, because it's really, it's very common that we could get addicted to things a lot more, like, a lot more than those without ADHD. So just be really careful, guys. So the next one is bipolar disorder. My mum has bipolar disorder, so I know just how life debilitating and impacting it is. So here's the statistics. So 1 out of 5 of us ADHDers may have coexisting bipolar disorder alongside our ADHD. So some of the kind of main traits of bipolar are mixed state of manic and depression. Basically, manic depression is just a whole different type of depression. It's very bad depression, and like the main it's really hard to explain, but it comes in different waves. Like one day you're fine, 1 second you're fine, and then bam, you're not. Like, it's crazy high, and yeah, it is very life impacting for people who have bipolar. So rapid mood swings is another main trait of bipolar. 1 out of 5, that's crazy high. That's like a really high percentage and high chance that alongside your ADHD you could also have bipolar. So it's really, you know, it's really important that we raise the awareness of these statistics and let others know just how likely it is that we could have this, we could have that, because our traits, they matter.